Hi there, it's Catherine, your lawyer friend and guide, and this is the #1 podcast for legal careers in Japan. Hey everyone, it's Catherine here, and welcome back to Lawyer on Air. My guest this week is someone whose story beautifully captures that moment we all face at some point, when you've lined up all your ducks neatly in a row, and life quietly walks in and rearranges them all for you. I'm speaking with Cong, Legal Counsel at Asics Japan, who began her professional career with a completely different dream in mind. Law was not plan A, it was the unexpected plan B, and yet that detour opened up a path shaped by curiosity, cultural intelligence, and a rare ability to find peace in ambiguity. In this episode, Lating takes us inside the philosophies that grounded her, especially wabi-sabi, and how embracing imperfection helps her navigate cross-cultural roles and discover ideation as her unlikely legal superpower. From martial arts and dancing to steering global AI governance, her journey reminds us that sometimes the path you never planned becomes the one that fits you best of all. I can't wait for you to hear her wisdom, her metaphors, and the way she sees the world. So grab your coffee, put on your headphones, and let's dive in. Hello, Liting, and welcome to the show.
Good morning, Catherine. Hello, everyone.
Let's start with the warm-up question. Imagine we are meeting up in person. Where are we, and what are you ordering to drink from the menu?
So there's one patisserie in Osaka I would always like to recommend to people. It's called Gokan. It means five senses. It's located in Kitahama in Osaka. And it has a building from the Taisho era, so old style building, but it has dessert with a blend of both Western and Japanese features. So I really enjoyed that place. And if we go there together, and it will be seated maybe on one of their second floor salon area, it's always a very good place to relax and chill, regardless what happens in your life. So I would recommend their matcha latte because they usually do it in the perfect blend of bitterness in balance with their desserts, and they will serve it in Kyoto ceramics. So to give you a feel of both the peace and grace that you enjoy in Japanese culture, but also a touch of a different era. So that's what I would recommend.
Wow, what a description. My mind has just gone on this visual of what it looks like there, and I could smell and see everything you were explaining. I love the idea of that Kyoto ceramics being used for the matcha latte, and as you said, bitterness, because it's a basically dessert serving place. So it would be a great combination. Gokan and Kitahama. Love it.
They also have shops in Hankyu and other department stores. So even if you cannot go there, I would still recommend you when you have time to check out their desserts. It's fabulous.
Wow. Even having lived 5 years in Osaka as I did, I don't recall ever going near this place. And I did go into some of the department stores too and never noticed. So thank you for that. That's amazing. Hopefully I can catch up with you down there soon and go to Gokan. That would be amazing. Well, let's get into your career journey and background. I often ask my guests what led them to study law and be inspired to pursue law as a career. How about for you, Lating? What was the story?
So my story actually is law was my plan B.
Plan B.
Right. So I went to a small liberal arts college in the US called Cornell College. Our college is known for its academic rigorousness and with very high per capita output for doctorates, PhDs, JDs, MDs. The fact that we were studying in the middle of a cornfield with nothing else much going on has a significant factor to play. Anyway, so I was studying sociology and I was all prepared to pursue a career in sociology. I applied to a lot of PhD programs. And at the time, I thought I have everything ready. I have a near perfect score in GRE, the US graduate exam. And I got into Phi Beta Kappa, one of those prestigious academic honor societies. I was starred in the department, got recommendations here and there, but I couldn't get in. What I didn't realize is the environment or the surroundings at the time. I didn't realize the ripple effect of 2008 financial crisis still resonated in US universities, which resulted in reduced admissions particularly in humanities and social sciences. And as for international students, funding is even less. And now I thought about it. If I become a PhD in sociology, I become a professor or a scholar. And if I continue my path in the US as a non-US citizen, funding and grants will be even more limited. So that path didn't go well, even so I did all the preparations and all preparation seems well. And at the time I thought, okay, if I don't do PhD, JD sounds about right. That's also a lot of reading and writing. So how hard can it be, right? And that was kind of the beginning of my journey to law. And another kind of interesting note is at the time I was studying in a US college and I applied to University of Toronto Faculty of Law. I'm a Canadian, but the reason I applied to U of T in particular, it was because U of T was the only Canadian law school at the time that accepts the applications through the US law school admission council system, which made it easy for me to apply from the US. And it's a very small detail. And I think more Canadian law schools had joined the system, but it kind of showed like U of T is prioritizing accessibility, is emphasizing, a global orientation that really resonated with me. So I went to U of T, and that's the start of my legal journey.
Plan B. But everything wasn't wasted, right? Sociology that you did, and somehow the cornfield is helping you here too. But those didn't detract, they helped you to think about doing law, right? It wasn't a waste of time for you to do plan A, then plan B, I'm thinking, right?
Exactly. So all the work you put into certain things, maybe it didn't pan out as you imagined, but all the skills you gained, the experience you gained, and the wonderful time you gained in studying a cornfield, like myself, still remained with you. That's the treasure that will always you get to keep, regardless of
Right,
the results.
exactly. So from there, what drew you to Japan initially? I don't know this story. And how did your interest in Japanese culture get started? Because I know you really love the martial arts, kendo, naginata, nihonbuyo. How have they shaped your journey here too?
So, like a lot of kids in my generation, I think we grew up watching anime, got fascinated by Japanese games, novels, movies, whatnot. And when I was in Toronto, actually, it was due to an introduction from one of my law school classmates, and I got into Kendo Naginata and enjoying the Japanese Canadian Cultural Center, where I also did Nihonbuyo, Japanese traditional dance. So I didn't really realize how much Japanese culture fascinates me in a way that it brings me peace and a sense of community when I was in Toronto at the time. So law school years and then articling, which is similar to apprenticeship in UK, and then later starting my own practice was actually a very stressful time for me. When I was in law school, actually, my biological father was very ill and he actually passed away during my final exam times. And of course, U of T granted me extension and I had support from the community and friends. But it was a difficult time for me. The study was hard, the work was hard, but I was still able to, through, doing martial arts, through dance in a beautiful kimono, I was able to find the kind of peace that I was looking for and recharge myself and get ready to another day at work, at school. Japanese culture was a really important part of my journey at the time. And in 2017, 18, I realized I speak English, Chinese, and a little bit Japanese at the time. Why not just go and try it out and live in Japan? And that's part of what prompted me to come to Japan.
Wow. Oh, amazing. And it's so interesting how I've heard you say peace 3 times already and how important that seems to be for you. And perhaps it's these martial arts and the dance that has given you that center, come back to center for this peaceful place during all this confusion and tragedy that you've had to come back there. And isn't that amazing that that has brought you that peacefulness and perhaps was part of coming to Japan? You knew that in some way it might be a peaceful journey to be here. I don't know, I'm seeing this connection between the peace and actually then deciding to come to Japan.
That's right. There's definitely that. But also, coming to Japan does not really resolve all the uncertainty in my life. It actually adds more uncertainty, adds more ambiguity because I'm an expat lawyer working for Japanese corporations with predominantly Japanese colleagues. But then the kind of the understanding and enjoyment about Japanese culture and art still would help in
Mm.
that kind of transition as well. There's a Japanese aesthetics concept called wabi-sabi. It kind of embraces impermanence, imperfection, incompleteness. I guess a very good example would be cherry blossoms are beautiful because they're falling, they're fleeting, they're not permanent. And if you see a garden path leading into the mist, you can not see where it leads, but kind of invites imagination and inspires you. So I think coming to Japan, I have not necessarily reduced the amount of ambiguity, uncertainty, or even difficulties in my life, but I learned to actually embrace that and really thrive on it even.
Yeah, I would say so. I mean, in between or around about there as well, you also worked in Korea and China. And so, having worked across and been in these different countries, Canada, America, Korea, China, now Japan, how has it been then for living in those different environments, especially developing yourself in the legal environment here? You've talked about the ambiguity, that's for sure. Is there anything that helps you in that way?
So one thing I learned is there will always be different cultural norms you have to work with, especially if you are doing cross-border or if you're just working for a global brand, a global business like I do for Asics. It's not always about the language or differences in the law. Cultural norms plays a significant part in our career. One book I would recommend is called The Cultural Map by Erin Meyer. It talks about how different cultures have different range of expectations under which the individuals make their choices. And very simple example, say if someone say, "Oh, it's very nice to meet you. Let's have lunch." In certain cultures, that means, "Oh, I like you." Or in certain cultures means, let's take out our calendar and make a booking for lunch next week.
Right. Interesting. Yeah.
Right? Even for like simple communications, like I will get back to you soon. This soon could mean an hour, a week, next month, depends on different settings and contexts.
Mm.
And having lived in particularly, I guess, Canada, US, as compared to Japan, China, even South Korea, that kind of differences is quite interesting when you think about it. I guess if I ever become a PhD in sociology, this is kind of work I want to do. But in law, you can still kind of see how it plays out. So I like to think of myself as a lawyer with global experience, but also as a bridge between different cultures, between different systems. And if you're a leader in a more diverse team, then these are the things you need to think about: how to communicate, how to lead your team members, considering their cultural backgrounds.
Absolutely. Has there been any pivotal kind of plot twist, shall we say, in your career? Something that's changed things for you? I mean, you said law was plan B, so I think anything's open here for you.
So the reason why I like to think about life as kind of a works of fiction, there's a lot of plot twists, is I realized I made a lot of plans, but they don't always go as I intended. But I still kind of try to move my life towards the direction I wanted to go every single time. Initially, when I first come to Japan, I wasn't sure if I will stay for long term. I think that's true for a lot of expats coming to Japan. But I didn't realize is I come to Japan and I held in-house counsel roles in various Japanese corporations, and it wasn't as difficult as I thought. I followed kind of the steps and guidelines required for immigration for visas, and I'm staying for the foreseeable future now.
That's life, right? I really did love how you mentioned life is a work of fiction and has plot twists. Because this is your plot twist, isn't it? Is that you didn't think you would be in Japan long, but now it's a place where you think you can be. And I think we learn by living here and observing that we get used to and settle in because it is a different place to live, no matter where you've been or what books you've read. So well done on that. I'm going to switch now to your work at Asics and your legal specialization because you are legal counsel at Asics and you're leading there on privacy and AI. So tell us what your day to day work looks like in such a dynamic role that you have.
One thing I would say is the role of in-house counsel is changing. We're no longer simply gatekeeper. We're no longer reviewers of contracts, but we're more advisor, partners, managers of risk. So there are more roles that we need to play in this context. So with momentum for AI and tech transformations, especially for in-house counsels, I think it's also true for external law firms to some extent as well. So you spend less time on standard contract reviews or regular meetings you have for reportings up and down. You spend more time closely working with your business teams on projects, initiatives, devising your own AI chatbots, developing an app for a new feature. And on the compliance and governance side, you will still draft policies, guidelines, but AI will do the first draft for you. And more time and efforts will be made into leading and coordinating regional legal teams. And in that sense, I think it has changed quite a bit, particularly for people who work in privacy and AI.
So you saying that your role now is less of the traditional gatekeeper kind of work and more into more human aspects, I suppose, time spent on, as you say, coordinating and leading teams, which I don't think AI can do right now and probably never will. So you're concentrating more on the human aspects of your work.
It's the human aspects, but also value generation aspect, I would say. I think legal still is a function that's very hard to quantify. How do you measure the value of good AI governance? How do you measure the value of having great privacy policy that prevented number of data breaches? So we need to kind of rethink our role as in-house legal counsels, also as advisor and partner, working with our overall business goals to generate more value.
Right. So how are you balancing those responsibilities, especially those global ones you mentioned, with the local needs of the Japan team here?
So what's particularly interesting for Asics is we're under global integration. Our overseas sales is approximately like 70% of our net sales. And we had record high sales in 2024 and even more ambitious plans for 2025. So what does it mean for a global enterprise and headquartered in Japan? I like to use the metaphor of wearing different hats, But I think in this particular example, it's more having a hat for different occasions, and you only have one hat. So you choose a hat that could fit many occasions, and you use accessories or adjust its angles and tilt toward boldness and subtlety when different situations present.
I see. So one hat for many occasions, but you add the other pieces to it. Oh, that's interesting. So what's the hat that you wear most days at work, and what are the accessories? Can I ask you that?
Well, because it's Asics, I think I mostly wear sneakers over
Oh,
hats.
yes.
But so one thing, especially particularly relevant for AI and privacy, is it's very easy for a project to involve multiple jurisdictions, and that will trigger laws in different jurisdictions. So it's important for in-house legal counsels to think about what standards or rules that we need to have in place, and think about the specific projects, specific jurisdictions that will be involved, and you tilt it, adjust it based on actual business and legal requirements.
Great. And so you're working at this lovely, amazing global brand. What is it that excites you about working in-house at Essex?
So I would say two main reasons. One is with its success overseas, it's very global. The legal team is very global, despite the fact it's a traditional Japanese company. So I work closely with my colleagues in the US, in Europe, in Australia, many different countries. And we work as integrated one team in many different projects, which allows you to learn about different jurisdictions, but also experience different cultures, which kind of puts what I mentioned about different cultural norms, different cultural expectations into play. And another thing I really like about working for Asics is we have this genuine interest in promoting sports and wellness, not only for professional athletes, but for the average person, for the communities, for people who maybe not accustomed to training and sports. I don't know if you have seen a recent campaign Asics did about desk break. They had a kind of interesting video campaign featuring Brian Cox, the Scottish actor. And the underlying message we want to make is just short breaks from your desk. Maybe 15 minutes of movement or exercise can make a significant impact to your mind. This is the kind of impact Asics wants to make to the communities around us.
I did actually see that, and I think you were also promoting that on LinkedIn, the desk break. And it's so important because as lawyers, anybody in an office, basically office working, we do sit at our desk and we don't think about getting up. So, and I love that you're concentrating on a different aspect of the community and average person instead of just the high performance athlete we see out there, who is also part of your genre. But I love that it's also a focus on the average person, how approachable that is. And I think that must help you engage you in your work as well, that it's very approachable in that way too. Interesting. Thank you for sharing that. I'm going to ask you next about a couple of the signature questions I've been asking my guests in this season 10 and 11. So I'm wondering, what is something, Lating, that you have unlearned? Often we get to learn a lot of things, but what belief or advice have you let go of?
One thing I want to mention, this is also something that one of your other guests, Mina Hoshizawa-san from
Hmm.
Survey also mentioned about unlearning perfectionism.
Yes, she did.
That also resonated with me, reminded me of law school days or early days of my career. We are haunted by cases about $1 million commas, one punctuation in a contract that would have significant consequences. And as a result, we are trained to be very attention to details. We go through documents once, twice, 10 times. and found typos. And that's part of the job or expectation at the time. After I came to Japan, after I went in-house, I realized that may not be the case for the in-house practice or the practice now, 10 years later. The other day, I was looking at an invoice that my colleague showed me, and he was complaining how much the law firm spent on this one question. And I checked the invoice and I realized the junior lawyer spent 8 hours to research and write a memo. It was a very good memo. But do we actually have the luxury of spending 8 hours to research and write opinion on things, considering how fast business are moving these days? I think in private practice, more so, is your legal advice needs to be bulletproof. And that's the expectation. But through my experience working in-house in different companies, and I realized, what if a lot of times business cannot afford bulletproof? Rather than scrutinizing every single contract and case to perfection, you think about the bigger picture. You set controls to manage risk. You have contract playbooks, you have templates you can rely on. So you manage the risk of the entire legal operations.
I see. So I was going to ask you how you unlearn perfectionism, what the steps might be, because it's not overnight thing, but you're saying that now is actually having systems in place like controls, playbooks, so that that does a lot of the heavy lifting. So that gives you more ease in your daily work to unlearn, especially perfectionism, which makes sense. I mean, $1 million commas? Oh, makes me cringe when I hear that. Thank you for bringing those examples. And yes, you are right that Mina Hoshizawa did speak about unlearning perfectionism. And if you go back and listen to Hiromi Shiraishi's episode, she also centers on doing away with perfectionism. So I'd give that episode a listen too if you're listening here and think, how do I get rid of perfectionism? Fantastic. Can I ask you one more signature question? Your lawyer superpower. What's your unique strength as a lawyer and how's it helped you?
Not necessarily a superpower, but over time I realized I'm a lawyer, but I'm also the creative type. The other day, we were doing Strength Finder within our team. And to my surprise, my biggest strength is in ideation. As lawyers, we tend to think about ourselves as analytical or strategic. But for me, ideation is the most important thing. And what ideation means is I will be fascinated by ideas and have the kind of genuine creativity and ability to see connections and similarities between thoughts that people may miss. And I think that really clicked with my experience as an in-house counsel in Japan in particular, because a lot of times I'm not only using my language skills as an interpreter of the law, but also I'm bridging different systems and getting different systems and cultures to talk to each other and see how the dots can be connected.
Interesting. I love how you've said you're a lawyer and creative. You're not saying you're a lawyer but you're creative. So it's part of what you do. You're creative, inspired, creative, motivated lawyer. And isn't it interesting? You knew that, but having the strengths finder, undergoing that and finding out that ideation is something that drives you as your strongest strength, that is amazing because it means you can be a great leader in your team and have the ideas, but know what the others in your team are. There might be the more detailed orientated person or the more empathetic person or whatever it might be. And pulling all of your strengths together, it's kind of intriguing and interesting. And I think also exciting to bring all of those together with your team. What do you think?
Exactly. And I think that the whole concept of strength finder and also really helps you in managing a team and working with your colleagues and mentoring junior colleagues is thinking about how their different strengths would play a role in the team as a whole, but also how it will mean for the person, what really triggers them, what really motivates them. I actually really like pay attention to nuances of words in emails or documents. I always try to think about how can I express this well. I also really like doing presentations. I like making PowerPoints, how I can add more visuals, how I can use more transitions. All those things that adds a little bit excitement to my daily work that other people may find it quite boring and takes away from the kind of legal work that they wanted to do. But for me, this is actually what makes my day sometimes.
Right. Is there anything else you'd like to say on this creativity side of things, connecting creativity and your lawyer skills?
I think particularly being a lawyer and creative is also well connects with my work in AI, supporting AI governance, but also supporting AI initiatives. I really enjoy working with our IT experts, building AI chatbots for our internal use, and even creating presentation videos with AI voice. So I can make multiple videos in different languages with the efforts of making one. That's also allows me to be able to do more with AI because I enjoy the creative aspect of my legal work.
Right, I see. And it's interesting, right? Because you're having to do the policies and things around AI, but you're actually using it yourself in your work. So it's making it fun. So, how do you see that intersection then of AI and law evolving?
A lot of times we have fears that AI will replace us. We have fears AI will become overpowerful. One thing is we should think about us as lawyers, as a professional, how we can take responsibilities, how we can utilize our powers in shaping the future of AI as well. One thing I recall, Tomoga Miho-san from IBM, another of your guests, also said about how AI governance isn't just technical, but it's deeply about legal and ethical. That really speaks to our role in shaping the future of AI.
Right. So, you're talking about human-centric AI, I think. What is human-centric AI?
A simple way to think about it is AI should serve the people. It should help people to do more things rather than replace people. A lot of the management are thinking these days in the boardrooms about AI strategy. I think it's too simple to think about if I have this state of art AI introduced in my company, I will be able to reduce costs in this number. But it's more than that. Jobs will not be necessarily replaced, but more they will be changed, is what I would like to think about it. And as in-house counsel, and as we work on governance or supporting new AI initiatives, we should also making sure that they are thinking in more broader long-term sense rather than simple cutting the headcounts, cutting the costs.
So, what about young lawyers then? If they're starting out now and wanting to future proof their careers in the age of AI and data, what would you suggest to them?
I think it's important to recognize the kind of age of uncertainties, the kind of nonlinear paths that are available for the younger lawyers today. So it's hard to say how you could exactly future proof your careers in the age of AI and data. But I would say that one thing it's kind of remain the same is you need to find out what really fascinates you. And you should stay curious and open about the world around you, what are changing, what's happening in the economy, and embrace the kind of non-linear paths that might happen to your career and enjoy it.
It's right. It's not linear, is it? And maybe there's another add on to this question, and that's for foreign lawyers in Japan. If I can go to that, what advice you might give to foreign lawyers considering in house as a legal career in Japan?
If you're fascinated by Japan, or if you see a good opportunity for your career in Japan, I would say go for it because you wouldn't know if the door will stay open forever and you wouldn't know if things will change, made it difficult in the future. If you just realize you want to come to Japan and your Japanese is not perfect, that shouldn't stop you. You should continue to learn Japanese but that's not going to be a deal breaker for all the positions that you're interested in. If you don't really know what it would be like to live in Japan, why not give it a try and see if it works for you?
I think you mentioned at some point about attracting butterflies to a beautiful garden. You had some metaphor like that that you used as well. Is there something like that you could elaborate on?
Yes, this is a saying I really like. I think it's a German saying. So if you try to catch butterflies with a net, you might get nothing. But if you build a beautiful garden, and maybe butterflies will come, maybe they will not. But in the end, you will still have a beautiful garden.
That's true. Yeah.
That's true.
Yeah.
When you hear me talking about, how law was my plan B, and initially I didn't intended to stay in Japan for long term, and I have been switching industries, but then my skill was still transfer in my current job. So yeah, I would definitely say, particularly for foreign lawyers want to try out Japan, think about what's important for you, what kind of skill set you want, and what kind of goals you want to achieve. Plan for it, make an effort, work hard, and even if the results are not exactly what you wanted, but you will still have the experience, skills, and likely a wonderful time in Japan while you're working towards those goals, and
Mm.
hence a beautiful garden.
Yes, right. The garden is still there. And what about this idea that you've moved between different industries as well? You were, I think, in pharma, you've done renewable energy, sportswear or sports shoes now. I think Asics also makes sportswear. So, what challenges did you face in switching industries? How have you overcome those? And maybe there's a certain challenge amongst those that you faced that you now see as a gift that was in disguise.
When you switch industries, obviously you need to learn a new industry. That takes time and efforts. But I realize it does get easier when you start to see and has the ability to transform experiences and skills between industries, between disciplines. Switching between different industries, you gain new insights, you learn new perspectives that can also be successful in different industries. For example, for Asics, our current president is actually from a more IT background, and his leadership is particularly meaningful where we expand into the digital sphere, and that particularly helped the drive for AI and innovation within Asics. So that's very powerful.
Wonderful. Well, tell me a little bit more about some personal things, being a little bit reflective here. What keeps you grounded and gives you energy outside of the law? How do you recharge? And I'd also like to ask you what your definition is of success. So, a little bit about your recharging regimes and then what success means to you personally.
So, recharging. So, I would say it's very important. I feel like it was easier to make friends when we were younger, when we have school and maybe have early training with a cohort. And as we get older, it becomes harder to make new friends. It becomes harder to make new connections. So I would say another thing it helps you to recharge and stay grounded is to invest time and nurture your relationships with families and friends outside work. This is what really make us as a human being. We're part of a family, part of friend circle, part of community. And outside work, we need the structure to support us as well.
Wonderful. And how about on success? What does that mean to you personally?
As you notice, I really like fictions, reading novels, and watching movies and stuff. So I like to think about success as looking from the outside. Would I be someone I want to be friends with? And thinking about over time in my life, if I'm a character in a fiction, would I be an interesting character I want to read more about? And would I be someone I want to tell a story about to my kids? to the younger lawyers. So I would say for me, success is more fluid. It's not really a KPI that you reach it and you're complete, but more a continuous journey that would I really be happy or satisfied with me yesterday as I completed. So it's not a simple answer.
No, but it's gold, right? That kind of, would I want to be a friend to that person who's me, right? That's a really great way of looking at things. So if younger Lating was sitting next to you, what's the one piece of advice you would give to her?
So, as an avid reader, I noticed there are a lot of fictions and works about going back in time and trying to fix your lives, reclaiming your glories, and avenging your enemies. There are a lot of works like that these days. It kind of shows we're living in times of uncertainties, and time travel stories offer kind of emotional agency to allow you to have to imagine how to have control over chaos. But to be honest, I don't think unless we can borrow time machines from Doraemon or Dr. X, we're not going to go back in time. And for me, if I can go back in time and talk to myself, the one thing is I think the ambiguity and certainty of the age isn't really the enemy. Like when we talk about the Japanese aesthetics, wabi-sabi, imperfections, impermanence, could be a drive, could be invite for imagination and possibilities. And even when we having uncertainties, we still can have control in the present and really think about what we want in life and try to go toward that.
So what's the advice you would say to yourself, younger self?
I would say embrace the ambiguity and uncertainties in your life because it's bound to happen. And even if you don't catch the butterflies, you can still build a beautiful garden with your hard work, your skills, your imagination, your curiosity.
Fantastic. Wow. Here we go. At the end there, that was some gems I think you've given to your younger self. And certainly I hope others are listening to take that on as well. So tell me, as we wind up then, if you could master a skill tomorrow, what would it be?
I want to learn programming, and with the rise of vibe coding, the skill for programming may be less valuable over time, but it's still invaluable.
If you were not a lawyer, what would you be? Would it be a sociologist or would it be something else?
If I'm not a lawyer, what I would be, I would love to be a sociologist, as you heard in my good old days in Grinnell College. That's what my dream was. For me, as a Chinese Canadian living in Japan, I will always be a person of multiple cultures. So if I weren't be a lawyer, a sociologist, or any career that will be able to utilize and promote multiculturalism would be something I would definitely be interested in.
Well, there we go. That's so exciting. Thank you so much, Lating. We've come to the end of the chat today. Thank you for being a guest on the show, for joining me. It's been a real pleasure speaking with you and connecting in this way. I hope you enjoyed your time.
Well, thank you, Catherine, for your interesting questions as always, and very invigorating conversation.
Before we finish up, where's the best place for people to get hold of you if they want to connect with you? Would that be LinkedIn?
Yes, LinkedIn. I try to build more presence and create more interesting contents on LinkedIn as well. So please feel free to reply to my posts or message me directly. Happy to connect.
Good. We'll put that information in the show notes. And so, to my listeners out there, if this episode's been inspiring to you and given you something to think about, we'd love to hear from you. Please subscribe, leave us a review on Apple Podcasts, and send us a voice message or a text message on our website. Your feedback helps listeners like you find this show and find the answers to the questions they always wanted to know. That's all for today. See you back here next time on the next episode. Cheers, kampai, and bye for now.